Hey everyone, and welcome to World Heritage Journey, where today we're at the historic centre of Warsaw, central Poland. So today we're in Warsaw, the capital city and largest city in Poland. It was founded in the 14th century, but it grew very much in importance in 1596 when King Sigismund III moved his court right here. And it's been the centre of Poland's political life ever since. Now, this World Heritage Site is quite interesting because although it's a historic town, during the German occupation from 1939 to 1944, the city was very heavily damaged, completely demolished really. Apparently 85% of the buildings were destroyed. But looking around, you wouldn't know it. An urban renewal project in the 1950s rebuilt the old town so it was exactly as it was before. Let's check it out. So this is the old market square, and it's always been the heart of the old town here in Warsaw. Now, it was reconstructed in the early 1950s based on its 17th century appearance when it was lined with rich merchants' houses. Now, what's really interesting is that when it was completely destroyed at the end of the war, the bricks were all just left in place, and so the rebuilding could literally use the same bricks to rebuild the same buildings, even in many cases the same decorations as well. One of the things they used as a source material for reconstruction were paintings that had been done of the old town, though in many cases artistic license had been used in some places. And what's really interesting is that the artistic license eventually, in some cases, made it back into the buildings, a case of life imitating art. Now, the large brick building that you can see behind me is St. John's Arch-Cathedral, and it's one of 3 cathedrals here in Warsaw, though it is the only arch-cathedral. Now, this building has a fascinating history. It was founded around 1390, and it's been through several different designs over the centuries. But during the Warsaw Uprising of 1944, it was the scene of a pitched battle between insurgents and the advancing German army. The advancing Germans rammed a tank loaded with explosives through the front door and blew up most of the building. And when the uprising collapsed, they came back, drilled holes in the wall, filled them with explosives, and destroyed the rest of the building. Behind me is a fortification known as the Barbican, and it marks the boundary between the old town and the new town here in Warsaw. It was constructed as a fortification to beef up the defences in the 16th century, but it was almost immediately ruled obsolete by advances in artillery power. And it was actually only used once in 1656 when Sweden invaded Poland. After this, it was partially dismantled and tenement blocks were attached to it. But when the Nazis invaded in 1939, it was almost completely destroyed. After the war, like everything else, they decided to reconstruct it, but rather than build the tenement blocks again, they decided to rebuild it to its former glory and make it into something of a tourist attraction. And the last stop on our tour today is the Royal Castle, the large stone building that you can see behind me. Now, that was built in the 16th century by the Polish king when he moved the court here from Krakow. It's also been home to the Polish Parliament for hundreds of years, which is actually one of the older parliament institutions in the world, which I find really interesting. But of course, as with everything else in the city, it was burned, looted and destroyed by the Nazis during the occupation years. It was, of course, painstakingly rebuilt using exactly the same bricks and decoration, and the process took so long it didn't finish until the 1970s. And it's been a really interesting World Heritage Site, I think, because the process of reconstruction is just so well done that it makes you forget that they were even destroyed in the first place, and I find that really impressive. But That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Joel on the road, and I'll see you at the next World Heritage Site.